Just very quickly, just tell me what sort of feedback do you get in media studies?
So the feedback in media studies is quite varied. So there's like written responses, there's also like verbal responses, and then sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like
Digital?
Digital, that's it, digital responses on our blogs. The feedback we get is quite dense, and there's lots of it, which is...
Yeah, it's well packed in quite a small space. When we get comments on our blog, obviously the comments have a character limit to them. So Mr. Burrows always tries to be succinct in what he's saying. Yeah.
Pithy?
Pithy and precise detail.
Yeah.
I'm glad you meant dense in terms of full of content as opposed to quite thick.
Well,
no, those are our comments. Yeah, I like the comments on my blog because he puts them on the posts they're relevant to, and so you can see what he's saying, and you can click through to the post, and you can look at if he says you need more screenshots like the first picture, you can click through and you can see, oh look, my first picture has got this amount of caption, and
I don't know, because like,
then work on the rest of them.
I like blog post what's the word, feedback, but I think it's good if it's just for a short little bit, as you said, but if it's something in relation to like the digipack that I've done, it can get quite confusing because there were so many components. So in that case, like the emails were better, or like verbal or written, like other written feedback, I think is more appropriate.
When I do rough cuts and produce a new video, frequently it's happened that me and Mr. Burrows and Amber will sit down as a class and watch the rough cuts back, and Mr. Burrows will make we'll pause the video as we go, and for example, one of the rough cuts I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Really?
Really?
1, 2, 3, 4.
It's
5,
8.
6, 7, 8. Yeah, 8 pages here. Well, 7 and a bit of notes, just making comments about what could be improved, what works, what doesn't work, how it can help in my evaluation, like making comparisons.
Because there's links to other stuff like the research and planning, or to the evaluation questions, which I think is useful, because you see the wider context.
Yeah, in our feedback, Mr. Burrows mentions, you know, this research and planning can be used in your evaluation, so make sure this is up to scratch, and then you can just, like I said, use it in...
Well, let me just ask then, because you're mentioning that on the sort of 8 pages, and you've got a hugely different current version, so how useful has that feedback proven or not?
This feedback was quite useful, but I made sure to sort of prioritise the important parts in this. So things like here, the recurrent strand to tie together, that's something that I've been conscious of. It's, for me at least, it's rare that I'll look in this book to check the feedback, because I just sort of end up making a mental list and then remembering that. But it's really useful just to have this, and then I can look at this and think about what changes I've made, and then mention them specifically in the new posts I do. So I do like having these books. Mr. Burrows does try to make sure we get books for editing, because it's important to have a written copy of what you're trying to do.
So just very briefly, and without being too specific, how would you compare feedback from media studies with other subjects you do?
I think
a
I
lot
prefer, I prefer media's feedback. I like the mix of being able to have a conversation on your feedback, so it's sort of instant, and also the comments on your blog, they can form a little bit of a to-do list for you, and the emails, of course, that's a bigger space, and so
I think the
you can
emails
really
itself are
see
just
the breakdown.
because I've emailed other teachers in other subjects, and they either don't reply or they reply so late that you've either done it or you've just discarded it just because you're waiting on a reply that just takes forever.
And then my subjects, we get green pen
Yeah, I
tips,
get
and then you
green
have
pens,
to reply to that, but there isn't really. It's sort of. It seems like it's meant to be a conversation, but it's only ever here's what you need to do, and then you respond, and you're like, how can I do this? And then you're on to the next piece of work. Whereas in media, it's sort of there's a conversation always going with your feedback. Sort of, you need to improve this, and then you can say, how does this look? And Mr. Burrows will say, well, no, what I meant more is sort of this, and maybe consider this, and this to implement.
I think, like in sort of my subjects, like the more denser way you're writing longer passages, I think the feedback is quite concise, and you do get a lot of things from it, like how to improve and what's gone well. But then in other subjects, there's either very little positive feedback or nothing that really.
There's a real sort of breakdown in media.
Yeah.
Sort of, Mr. Burrows will analyse everything in there and then put it all into your feedback. Yeah. So it's sort of like you don't miss the small parts whilst you're looking at the big part. Don't know quite what I'm trying to say here.
The micro and the macro.
Yeah,
the micro and the macro.
It's sort of, you get the whole picture, whereas in other subjects you might just get a tick and it's good, and then you're like, well, how can I make it better? And at least in media you get the sort of, this is good, this is great, you need to
even
make
when
this
it's
better.
like when it's great, it's not perfect, so
yeah, it's
make
always
it better.
always
something.
yeah, always a target in our feedback, or something to do to respond to the feedback.
Right, merci beaucoup.
Uh-huh. Thank you. Thank you very much. You've been watching a DB3 production.